So we're going to cover some consumer environments, we're going to talk about packaging trends, and we're going to talk about what's possible in packaging. I don't have to juggle, right? That wasn't part of the program? So anyway, so we're going to talk about some trends. Right now, why do we need to adopt a new strategy in packaging? There's been a tremendous explosion of SKUs. We have a problem of getting our customers attracted to our products, and we want to involve the consumer in everything that we do. So one of the things that's changed with packaging is packaging traditionally used to be just function. It used to be able to protect the package. It didn't do much of anything else. Maybe it had a little, your name and stuff on it. But now we live in a different world. Packaging it drives sales, it drives communication, advertising, branding. Our friend Jim Ryman here spoke about security. All those things are important for packaging nowadays. And our shoppers have changed as well. The youngest adults, the millennials now, where everybody is targeting, are always interested in what they can do to be different, how they interact with the package. They want to be able to pick up the package and play a game or let it take them to a website or something. So it's getting very, very sophisticated in what they do. By the way, he didn't mention it before, but if there's any questions, don't be afraid to ask them, because this will get pretty boring if no one asks a question. Okay, so shelf appeal has long been the heart of marketing campaigns. Everybody wants to put something special on their package to draw people to it, to have them look at it and touch it. And brand owners are faced with changing consumer habits. They only have 3 or 4 seconds to make, or 3 to 7 seconds to make an impression on somebody when they walk by in a grocery store or whatever. And this is interesting, 58% purchase something they did not plan. In-store decision rate is 76%, which means they make the decision in the store. Only 24% is pre-planned. Only 24% when they go to shop the stores know what they're going to purchase. And 70% is, if you pick it up, you'll buy it. And that's the most important thing. You'll see a lot of this in all the coatings and effects that I'll talk about. You need to get them to touch it. Once they touch it and pick it up, 70% chance they'll buy it. So how do you get them to touch it? How do you get them involved? You have to use their senses. One of the things that's interesting in using senses, and where coatings comes in particularly, is that you don't have to really change your graphics. You can leave the graphics and the colorful images that you have alone. You could just change the coatings on the outside of the package. Coatings are clear, and you can do a holographic effect, you could do a soft touch, without really changing anything underneath, right? So the things that we see a lot of today are holographic effects. Those are always big, because as you walk down the consumer aisle, you'll see the package will shimmer with a holographic effect on it. Soft touch. I'm sure everybody has experienced soft touch from the outside of a shampoo bottle. Even some magazines now have soft touch covers that make it feel that it's leathery or a different effect than just paper. Matte coatings. There's a lot of effects you can do with matte coatings. You can combine them with different effects and actually come up with something quite spectacular. I'll show you one of those. Aroma. This is a fairly new thing. Aroma, in the old days, it would be the scented things that would be scratch and sniff, and after a few times you tried it, it would go away. We have an exhibit in our Parsippany location where we've had something we did at the FTA years ago. You could still smell a lemon if you go up there and touch it. So it's very effective. Just think of people who want to be able to smell a perfume in a shampoo, right? How many times have you gone to a drugstore or whatever, and the shampoo bottles, all the tops are broken because somebody wanted to smell what the shampoo smelled like. You could now put that on the outside of the package, and then once the people pick up the package, they scratch it, or actually you could just do it by rubbing your finger. They can smell what the perfume is like. And like I said, you got them to touch it, so 70% chance they'll buy it. Late stage differentiation, we'll talk about that. I'm sure everybody here has seen the Coke bottles, right? Have a Coke with this person or that person. Big ideas on how to do that in the consumer marketplace. And we're going to talk about barrier coatings. Barrier coatings are coming into the fore because they now enable you to take out a layer of film or enhance the package in its properties, and so it extends the shelf life of the package or makes it more fresh. Why is that important these days? We've always had barrier films, right? Many people are now natural products, right? So there's no preservatives. There's nothing that'll preserve the product chemically. So you need a good environment in the package to be able to hold that freshness, right? Especially anything that's using whole grains, things where the intrinsic oils that are in the foods might go rancid, peanuts, things like that are all places where you could use a barrier coating. So how to transform packaging? Like I said before, if you want to change things and you don't want to change the graphics of your package, one of the easiest things you can do is apply coatings. They're clear, they don't interfere with the graphic message, and then they could also enhance it by giving these various effects. So you have barrier coatings, you have aesthetic coatings. We're going to talk a little about the marking for this late stage differentiation, digital coatings, specialty coatings, and functional coatings. These are all things that are involved in packaging almost every day of our lives. So one of the things that we see a lot of are metallic and holographic effects. I don't know if any of you have seen these super high luster metallic inks, but it almost looks like metallized film. You could actually make it look like a mirror. And the interesting thing about it is it's not put on with a metallizing type of environment. It's done by just an ink. And if you color the ink, and if you use a holographic film, you can get some of those effects you see up there. Now, I wish I had the print to show you, but it is startling. And for you to do that kind of print with a conventional means by using a holographic film and demetallizing and doing all the things, it would be a fortune. This is fairly simple. It's just some special inks and the coatings to make the holographic effects, and you're in. So it's very interesting. Any questions about holographics? Okay. All right, next thing is soft touch and reticulation coating. Soft touch was the one I was talking about before. That's where the coating actually feels soft. I don't know how to explain, maybe it feels like suede would be a good example of it. They use them for a variety of different effects. You could do it just for a pure, it feels good and you want to touch it, but you can also put them in bands. You can put them in circles. You could put the coating targeted in certain areas. One of the I'm sure you've seen shampoos and conditioners for people who don't have good eyesight. How do you know what they're using? Are you using a shampoo on your head, or are you using a conditioner? Well, if you put the dots of soft touch in certain areas on the tube, they can feel it. Oh, there's three spots I can feel. This must be the conditioner, and there's only one spot. This must be the shampoo. And of course, who hasn't gotten soap in their eye when you're in the shower? So there's a lot of things that you can use coatings for, not just pure sensual, but you could also use them to convey a message if you'd like. Reticulation coatings are a little bit different. Reticulation coatings are based off surface tension. And what they do is they actually make it look and feel like leather. So imagine you could put, if you want to have a leather effect on a film or a paper or anything, really, you could do that with these coatings. Yeah. Matte and gloss effects. I talked about this before. Now you can have a package that has a matte effect. You can have a package that have glossy effects. What's really stunning is when you start to combine them. Water droplets are very visual, especially if you put a gloss coating on the water and you put a matte coating on the background. You would actually think the bottle or whatever label or whatever it is wet, because it has that stunning effect. Sometimes people use them on fruit, things like that, where you want to show a fruit with glistening with dew or whatever. Very effective in showing that. And a nice thing about it too is that as a person walks by it, it's visually appealing. They go over and they want to know how they did that, so they touch it. That's one of the key things, get them to touch it. And we talked a bit about aroma. Aroma is released when these capsulets are broken. You can have all kinds of different aromas. You can even have some bad aromas if you're into safety. One of the things that's popular with gas companies, when a gas company goes into a new area, people don't know what gas smells like. So they can print a flyer and say, scratch here, and here's what the gas smells like as a safety thing. You can use them for perfumes. I'm sure all of you have seen the little perfume things inside of a magazine where you scratch it. The interesting thing about this is they actually had people who would give a sensory perception. For instance, you go out and you see a lot of water bottles these days, and the water bottles will have that they're maybe have a lemon flavor, or they're a raspberry flavor, or something else like that, right? Most of that sensation comes from your nose. So what you do is you put one of these scented coatings around the top of the bottle where people pick up the bottle to drink it, and they smell the lemon, and they think there's lemon in the water. But there isn't any lemon in the water, it just smells like there is, right? So, it evokes a particular message that if you're interested in doing, you can do that with a coating on a package, right? Like I said, the earlier example I gave before with the shampoos, where you want to stop people from opening up your package to smell the perfume, you can put a little patch on the outside. So it's all cool stuff that they can play with and touch, right? And there's a whole range of things. We could sit here and talk for hours about all the different effects. There's thermochromics. Thermochromics change color when the temperature increases. For instance, there's a lot of products these days that you could throw into a microwave. Depilatory waxes, if you want to do home waxing at home. How do you know if the wax is hot enough? Well, you could put a little thermochromic strip on there, and when the wax gets hot enough, it'll change color, and you'll know that it's good to use. Heat transfer. How many people have seen those? You go and you get those heat transfer decals on a cereal box. You put them on a T-shirt. Photochromics. Some of you here probably have those eyeglasses that change when you go out into the sun. Those are photochromics. You can do the same thing with packages. Interesting concept in California. Anybody remember the California raisins? They used to have those dancing raisins. Well, one of the things that they did was they actually put sunglasses on the raisins. So when you took the package of raisins out into the sunlight, all the raisins got sunglasses that amazingly appeared. And so, kids were running in and out of the sun, but they had a ball with the raisins. Phosphorescence, glow in the dark. I'm sure you've all seen those things on Halloween. Aroma, coin reactive. Coin reactive is you rub a coin on the outside of the coating and it turns color. So that if you want to do an instant message or something like that, you can do that. Pen sensitive, very similar. You have a pen that you draw across the message and it'll change color. And metameric pairs. Metameric pairs look different in different kinds of light. So in the lights in here, you may not see any difference at all. But if you configure it right, when they go outside, it'll change color. And they'll be able to look at it, oh, now I see the message, or whatever it is you're trying to convey. So that's it for special effects. Anybody have a question about special effects? No? Okay. Next one is late state differentiation. Now, there's lots of ways to do late stage differentiation, and I'm not going to talk about digital or any of those. There's hundreds of people here who can talk about that kind of stuff. We're going to talk about some of the new things coming out, and one of them is, well, the reasons for it first are, personalization, economic advantage. If you have a lot of SKUs and you're trying to limit the packaging, you can put the differentiated information on the package itself. Quicker response of consumers, better communication, yada, yada, yada. So one of the things that's been fascinating over the last few years has been laser marking. I counted them. I think there's like 8 people showing laser marking equipment and chemicals here. And basically what happens is instead of using an inkjet to do your date and barcodes, there's a laser that does it. And it's a lot faster. They're clear to begin with, and then when you hit them with a laser, they turn black. You use a low energy laser, so it's very safe, and it's also very fast. You don't have a lot of waste. You don't have a lot of, for some of you who are familiar with oblation, where they actually use the laser to engrave into the package, you don't have all the dirt and the dust that happens with that, and you use the powers a lot less. So it's fast and not very messy, and It works really well. And of course you could do them on anything from a regular laser on a production line to something in your store if you happen to have a small LED laser. So here's how it works. The coating is represented there by that white rectangle, and when the laser hits it, it turns black. Now, one of the interesting things about this is, I was talking to a confectionery candy maker, and one of the problems they have is people rubbing off the date codes. You go to the small mom and pop shops, and they'll have a candy bar with the date codes, and maybe they're not as fresh as they should be. So somebody will take their thumb and they'll rub off the date code because it's only inkjet on a plastic substrate. Neat thing about this is because it's laser light, you could laser right through the laminate and have it appear in between the laminate layers. So there's no way you could get rid of it or change it or move it. And so it doesn't slur, it doesn't get smudgy or anything. So it's very nice. It's been really popular this last year. So some of the big advantages: there's no ablation or etching. It's human and machine readable at high speed. Lasers, if you need it to go faster, you just turn up the power. Basically, you apply a varnish. So if you have graphics and you don't want to change your graphics, you don't want to put what would traditionally be a white bar where you would do an inkjet, you could just leave it and put a clear coating, and then it'll image right on that clear coating. You could do it through a laminate if you're so inclined. They're light fast, they're tolerant of a lot of chemical stresses, and you could put a whole platform together and get it ready to go in your plant, especially if you need variable data. There's a lot, I think in the pharma show, there's a lot of people interested in doing sequential numbering. Each of the new packages now have to have sequential marking on each of the packages, and if you need to do that quickly, lasers is one of the ways that you can do that. Typical markets that lasers are involved in: corrugated containers, flexible packaging, folding cartons. We've done all of these, reverse printed sleeves, multi-wall sacks. There really is no limit as to what you can use these markings on. Sequential numbers, unique identifiers, personalization, all the things that are there for, that you might need to do a late stage differentiation as the stuff goes out the door. Okay? So where we used it in end uses, we've done it on milk, we've done it on yogurts, beverage, beer labels, primary packs for cereals, pharmaceutical labels, blisters, personal care labels, anything like that can be done. Existing production in 5 million cartons per year. That's what we do right now. A lot of people substitute it for their inkjet operations. There's a lot of, if you've been using inkjets, I don't need to tell you about the issues with inkjets, but lasers eliminates most of those. And of course, you don't want to get a fine for having a bad barcode or anything else, and these things are extremely reliable. I've been told that if you're running inkjets, you normally have a guy who does nothing but runs around the production line making sure all the inkjets are clean. You don't have that problem with a laser. There's very little maintenance on it as well. So let's talk a bit about lightweighting. What is lightweighting? One of the things you'll see in packaging trends is people trying to make the package lighter. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Sometimes they want to switch to a pouch. Sometimes they want to eliminate one of the films in the package, or maybe they want to do well on their environmental scorecard, so they could put a note on their card that this package is environmentally friendly. So one of the ways that you can do that, here's a typical commercial 2-ply laminate that doesn't have much barrier to it. It's a saran-coated polyester, ink adhesive, and a polymer film. What you can do that with by putting a barrier coating on there, you could increase the oxygen by 10 times. Increase its resistance to oxygen by 10 times. It's incredible. So a package that would have normally lasted maybe a week and a half will now last maybe 3 weeks. And just a small increase in the amount of freshness that you have in your package is a tremendous influence. For instance, even if you had a package that was only intended, one of the things that people play with is bread. You know, most consumers, they go out and they buy bread. They're not going to buy any bread that's 2 days old, right? They're going to, even though it's still fresh and you could still eat it, they're probably not going to buy it. But from the time it comes out of that bakery to the time it hits that shelf, it's constantly degrading, even if it's a little bit. You put a barrier coating on it, it doesn't degrade almost at all. So your 2-day bread is really, really fresh. And here's an example using a 3-ply laminate. Here's where you can actually take some film out of it. Here they're getting rid of a metallized polymer film. There's lots of reasons for metallization, but there's some reasons that maybe it doesn't go through X-ray machines. Maybe it sets off your metal detection and things like that. You could put a barrier coating in there and have basically very similar properties. So, and it's clear. So if you want to see the package, you want to see what's in it, you can put a clear barrier coating in there as well. So why do you use barrier coatings for oxygen? They're chlorine free. I didn't mention that before, but if you're using PVDC in your packaging now, it contains chlorine. So you'd be able to eliminate that and claim that as an environmentally friendly move that you've made. Lightweighting, so it's less material that goes into a landfill. You improve the sustainability, you remove the metal. It's transparent, so you can show your product off. If you want to show the product, and you typically right now have just metallization film, that's how you do it. You can now do it clear so you can see the product. Improved ability to recycle it, because now you don't have that metal stuff in there. And it's an alternative to expensive barrier films. Some of these barrier films can run double what you currently buy for regular OPP and polyester. This is a lot more economical way to go if you need some sort of high performance. Has excellent O2 barrier. Like I said, against PVDC, you're probably looking at a 10 times improvement. Excellent aroma barrier. Some people want to joint ship packaging, so what they'll do is they'll pack, I don't know, mints and chocolate. And by the time they get to the end of the line, the chocolates taste like mint and the mint tastes like... So if you're looking for barrier overwraps or something like that, you can use these barrier coatings on film to make a big difference in your packaging. You can replace PVDC and EVOH. So if your package contains those, you can replace them. Improve flex crack. I don't know how many CPGs are here, but one of the things, if you have a barrier package, you probably get guarantees on how much barrier it is. Check it after it's been in the store for a couple of weeks, and you'll find that the people just moving it around have cracked the sophisticated barrier layers inside, and it's not what you thought it was. Coatings, especially these types of coatings, are flex crack resistant, so the barrier you start with when you come off the press is probably the ones you end with after it's been in the store and been through shipping. Like I said before, extend shelf life, and many of these things are patented. So you can use them like conventional film weights, so your converter should be able to use them. They can be used on existing equipment. They reduce processing waste, reduction in energy, so forth and so on. You can also apply them only where you need them. A lot of people want to go and they buy, they're doing some sophisticated barrier packaging, and they call up the barrier film people, and the guy says, oh yeah, well, there's a minimum order, and you may have to order it in advance, and it gets here in 6 weeks, and blah, blah, blah. If you have a coating, you could just make it as you need it. So, in summary, we talk about differentiation, engaging the senses, standing out on the shelf, lightweighting, and of course I have to put the little advertisement or my marketing people won't forgive me. Go and see our booth at 7476 in the South Hall.